Since its founding in the 1930s, Alcoholics Anonymous has become a permanent part of the fabric of American life, the undisputed default for recovery. This single program is routinely mandated by drug courts and unquestioningly prescribed by doctors as the primary solution for any form of addiction. But psychiatrist Lance Doates has spent decades studying the actual clinical results of these mandated programs. His research reveals that, despite its cultural dominance, the actual success rate of AA is only between 5 and 10%, the worst success rate in modern medicine. This 90% failure rate is sustained by a rhetoric that shifts all blame onto the patient. Within the program, failure is attributed to a lack of rigorous honesty or a refusal to work the steps, ensuring the model itself is never questioned. The 12 steps require patients to declare themselves totally powerless, insisting that they must rely entirely on supernatural help to overcome their condition. A treatment that fails 90% of its patients is an ideological dogma. It traps individuals in a cycle of shame by blaming their character for the system's clinical shortcomings. After losing his father at age 5, Jason Shires found comfort in food and eventually heroin. He wasn't chasing a high, he was seeking relief from a world that felt unsafe. When Jason entered rehab, the system removed the drugs, but replaced them with a new label. He was told he was a permanently broken addict who would struggle for the rest of his life. Without addressing his internal pain, Jason's addiction simply manifested in new behaviors. For 22 years, he rotated through extreme compulsions involving food, money, and relationships. Suppressing one external symptom forces the internal pressure to erupt elsewhere. The addiction remains, it just changes its outward shape. Removing the chemical without healing the grief traps the individual in a lifelong game of symptom management. Modern psychology identifies this process as displacement. The addictive behavior is a substitute action used to manage overwhelming internal distress. From this perspective, addiction functions as a form of intelligence. For a traumatized child, finding a way to soothe unbearable pain with a substance is a resourceful, logical survival tactic. The root of this distress is usually a profound feeling of helplessness. The addictive act is the only something the person feels they can do to regain control. This psychological reality clashes directly with the 12-step requirement to submit to a higher power. Forcing an already traumatized, helpless person to admit a state of complete powerlessness actively reinforces their deepest psychological wound. By demanding submission and stripping away self-efficacy, the 12-step model treats the symptom while cementing the trauma that caused the addiction. Jason's journey changed when he abandoned the addict label. He realized he was never broken. He was a human being responding to a tragic childhood. Dropping the dogma allowed him to use somatic therapies to process his grief. As the internal trauma healed, the destructive behaviors naturally lost their purpose and fell away. There are now many modern alternatives to the traditional model, including cognitive behavioral therapy, smart recovery, and harm reduction. These programs provide practical coping skills and foster self-reliance rather than demanding supernatural submission. Advocates are now successfully arguing that the legal system must offer these secular, evidence-based options instead of coercing citizens into religious programs. Evidence-based tools empower individuals to reclaim their lives. They allow for a path to healing based on the fact that you were never broken to begin with.